builds a house, nobody can tear it down. If the Lord builds a house, nobody can tear it down. When it's built on His name, there's nothing gonna shake this ground. If the Lord builds a house, nobody can tear it down. So we are going to have a shortened service today. And so I'm trying to give you a little nugget, an extra little nugget of Nehemiah without a full sermon, okay? So know that we are going to get more into this section of Nehemiah. We don't have enough time today, and I don't want to keep you forever. But I want you to think of this. I have a friend who recently said that they're a clergy friend. They recently said they just wish they could serve a growing church. They're so tired of serving churches that are at the end, and it feels like they've made a career of just serving churches that are at the end of their life. And I get it. He has a church that maybe in its heyday was built to hold 1,000 people and has maybe a tenth of that on a Sunday morning. But also, we know there's nothing stopping him from doing his thing and turning the church around. There are thousands of unchurched people in town. If he could get a congregation to begin to think about what the community needs, if he could lead that way, he could maybe have a growing church, but in every setting he hasn't. And there's an army of consultants out there and a library of books that are offered with advice on how he might do that, how his church might grow. And any success he would earn from maybe any points he would get from his denomination for growing the church, or invitations to start speaking at engagements because his church all of a sudden started growing, or perhaps maybe he would write a book about it. Every one of those would be about him and his own ability to grow that church. It would always be about him. Books about ministering to declining churches, there are tons of them out there. Some confidently offer a turnaround strategy, while others focus on, just letting the church die well. But whether churches are dying or growing, pastors tend to get much of the blame for it or the credit for it. A congregation's growth or decline depends, we know, on so many factors. And yet, pastors, they will be the one whose name is on it. They will be the one pointed at. There's a church, St. Mary's Episcopal in Los Angeles, and it, like a lot of mainline churches, there's a bygone era. It was a Japanese congregation. Many of the original members had moved away now, and mostly Korean and Latino families, but families whose children had moved out, had moved into the neighborhood, and it was much older. And St. Mary's displayed this copy of an evacuation order, even, that sent Japanese Americans into internment camps from World War II. So, they displayed that in their lobby. A reminder of the racism that the members had braved, but also kind of as if that was the time. A reminder of the time when everything was much better. In Japanese internment camps was the much better. Most historic churches double as as giant storage facilities now, and this one was exactly that. It had just become a storage facility, St. Mary's. They feared, the people themselves also feared kind of being discarded as the church became just a place where they were daily thinking how they would use the rooms to move more stuff, more old furniture out of main spaces they were using. And that sentiment, at least, it was kind of detected among the parishioners too. You could tell the fact that, I need some water. Chris, do you have some water? Can I have some?
My last sip of coffee.
My mouth is very dry. Thank you. So the parishioners had also started to take this on. They were kind of in this place of, just pastor, do whatever you want. This church is going to be dead soon, anyways. They kind of inclined to their demise. And so the church was purged of its overflowing junk, which started to make room for its neighbors to come and dance and to spray paint and to play tubas. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. And St. Mary's began to see, as the stuff was purged from the church, there was room for new activity to happen. And it kind of like revitalized the leaders in the church. They started to be able to see what could happen in these rooms. The members, they got out into their neighborhood and they tasted the food of the people who were right around the corner, and they smelled the smells of the people, and they learned how to rejoice in a different way with people who were rejoicing not like them, and weep with those who were weeping in ways that they weren't weeping. And it was hard to be the church's pastor in that season, watching the people move out of what they had been stuck in, this World War II kind of mindset, but marveling as how these Japanese children in concentration camps had kind of begun to forget about all of that and celebrate now this community right around them. It was really transforming the church. And over time, they decided to send a survey to the community. They sent a survey, and what it showed is that the neighbors around them really wanted the place to remain a church in the community, even if they hadn't ever gone there. Now, more of them started to attend, but they wanted it to be a church because deep down what they were saying is they wanted the church itself to see itself as part of a missional movement in the neighborhood. We don't want it to become anything else. We don't want it to be sold. I don't care much about this church. I don't care. I haven't really paid attention to it, but I do think it should remain a church and the only way to make sense of that is that they wanted the church to see itself how they thought the church should see itself. Does that make sense? The church had lost its ability to see itself as a part of a missional movement. It's really relatable and exactly what we find in the second chapter of Nehemiah. And so I want us to read it together. Nehemiah has this deep heart. He has this deep heart for Jerusalem, and he comes to the king, and he's sad at his presence before the king, and the king asks him, "Why do you look so sad?" And he said, "I was very much afraid, but I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lies in ruins? and its gates have been destroyed by fire." And the king said to me, "What is it you want?" Then I prayed to the God in heaven, and I answered the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah, where my ancestors are buried, so that I can rebuild it." Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, "How long will your journey take, and when will you get back?" It pleased the king to send me, and so I set a time, and I asked him, "If it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governors, perhaps, so they'll provide me some safe conduct until I arrive in Judah? Oh, and may I also send a letter, if it pleases the king, to Asaph, keeper of the royal park, so he'll give me some timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel by the temple, and for the city wall, and for the residence I will occupy?" And because the gracious hand of my God was on me, the king granted my requests. So I went to the governors, and I gave them the king's letters, and the king had also sent army officers and cavalry with me. And when the Horonite and the Ammonite officials heard about all of this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. I wonder if what you heard in that as you read it, if you would have ever noticed it before. It's Nehemiah just barely beginning this project, coming to the king, and we're going to read in a second Nehemiah actually getting to Jerusalem and seeing what's there. But Nehemiah, I noticed two things. A, he's going on his own. He's the guy. He's the one who's been given the task. He's going on his own. But he knows he can't do it alone. And notice who he asked to help. He doesn't seem to ask for those who have, a considerable amount of experience in the, building temples. He asked for the governors, the guy who has timber down the road, the people in the community that have things valuable to offer. He doesn't ask for a priest. And there are people who are not Israelites, right? But people who are watching from a distance, and it says disturbed. But that word does not mean disturbed as we think they are perplexed. They are confounded. They are amazed. Amazed that someone's come into the community and has shown an interest in these people. I imagine that's what the people in the neighborhood around St. Mary's felt too, when they took a survey asking them, the community, what they thought of the building, what they wanted. It's also really strange to think about it, because all of those are things at our disposal every day. We pay our taxes to the government, and workers in a timber mill, they're good blue-collar workers, kind of the ordinary folks of the community, and yet they have something extraordinary to offer the building of this church. Let's look at the second half. I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others, and I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. By night I went out through the valley gate toward the Jackal Well and the gate and the Dung Gate, and I was examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down, and its gates which had been destroyed by fire. And then I moved on toward the Fountain Gate and the King's Pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through there, and so I went up the valley by night and examining the wall that way, and finally I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. And the officials did not know where I'd gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others. I'd said nothing to all those people, all the official people who would be doing that work. And then I said to them, you see, the trouble we're in, do you see it? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. So come let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God and what the king had told me. And they replied, let us start rebuilding. And so they began the good work. But when the Horonites and the Ammonites officials and also the Arab heard about it, well, now they mocked and ridiculed us. What are they doing? What are they doing there? There is this corporate nature to this from the get-go. The thing is, Ezra in the whole story, which is all together, Ezra and Nehemiah, it was one book at one point in time. But the first half of the story is of a people trying to do it on their own. It's a story of a people over and over again relying on their own strength, forgetting God's strength, but also really, truly making in every way possible, cutting themselves off from the community. And Nehemiah comes along, and from day one, he begins this work of collaborating with everyone in the community. I will say, though, to begin to think like that, to begin to do that, takes a reordering of how you see yourself. Not just seeing what is ordinary, what is extraordinary in the ordinary of the community around us, but also seeing what is extraordinary in the ordinary in you. I get the sense that this kind of collaborative work that we've been doing at Kingstowne, people really love it. It is what it's what people are most passionate about when they talk about our church, of how we are in and of and with the community. And yet I do feel that maybe you all don't know how to do it yourself, that it's a thing that uniquely our church does, but that maybe there's a season for helping you see how extraordinary you are and how you can go make contacts with the timber guy and how you can be in contact with the governor. There is something, the church that we're going to have to build at Kingstowne if we want to move into a new station of this church will have to be the church that is built by rethinking what is extraordinary, what is unique about you and the connections you have, and how that can be used by God in a new way. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our town hall, but I want to introduce you to the song real fast. I don't know if you've heard this song before, but it's a kind of an old gospel tune, and so as Brett plays it, it's just, you can repeat it with me, but I'm going to allow this to be our prayer today. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. Take my hands, Lord, and my feet. Touch my heart, Lord, and speak through me. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. You want to sing it with me?